Kaha.
Hello and welcome to the NZ Ahead podcast. I'm Liz and today I am doing an episode that it wasn't an easy episode to record this one, but it was so valuable, so needed because every one of us goes through it. Today I'm going to be talking to a member of our private NZ Ahead community. He is called Stevie. You might have listened to Stevie's previous podcasts that we did back in 2024, where he talked all about moving from Scotland to New Zealand. But this episode isn't quite as cheery, although, like I say, it is a much needed topic that needs to be talked about, especially when you move to the other side of the world, so you leave your family behind. Back in November 2024, Stevie returned to Scotland in the UK because his father was diagnosed with a brain tumour and didn't have long to live. And in this conversation, we talk about the realities of what it looks like when this happens. It's everyone's dread. And like I say, unfortunately, it happens to all of us. I also lost my dad at the same time as Stevie did, but I'm not brave enough and strong enough to come onto a podcast and talk about it. So I really, really appreciate the fact that Stevie offered to bring his experiences to the podcast to share them with you. If you would like to know more about the community that Stevie and I talk about, like I say, he has been a member of our private NZ Ahead community for 3 years now. He's a brilliant, valuable, gorgeous member of our community. If you would like to know more about that community, you can do so by taking our free 5-day video guides about life in New Zealand. They're 5 short videos that we share every day for 5 days, sharing some aspect of what it's like to live in New Zealand. They're brilliant, they're homemade, they're professional. At the same time, they're really relaxing, and I think you'll love them. When you get to day 5 of those videos, you'll be given information on how you can join our private NZ Ahead community. So if you're thinking of moving to New Zealand and want to be surrounded by people like Stevie and myself and Brian and others who are making the dream of moving to New Zealand a reality, then you can join that community and we can be friends. To get to those videos, you need to go to www.nzahead.com/free. That's www.nzahead.com/free, FREE. Okay, let's jump into this conversation. Again, thank you so much to Stevie for opening up. It really helped me to talk about this subject. I haven't talked about it on air before, and so it's been really nice to talk about this with Stevie. So sit back and enjoy this frank conversation with Stevie.
Kaha.
Welcome to the NZ Ahead podcast. Everything you need to know about moving to and living in New Zealand.
There's a whole world here.
So nice to be with you again.
We call it Aotearoa around here, bro.
You'll be right.
We are your hosts, Liz and Brian.
Amazing New Zealand in the southern seas.
See, that's where I belong. That's home.
Stevie, welcome back to the podcast.
Good afternoon, how are you?
I'm good. So thrilled to have you back with me. I love it when we get to chat for the second time, especially since, how long is it ago since I did the first podcast with you?
Probably a year, maybe?
Right,
Won't be
okay.
far off a year, I don't think.
Yeah, just that time just goes so quickly.
No, you tell me.
But for those people who don't know who Stevie is and they haven't seen the podcast previously, who are you and why are you in New Zealand?
So, hi, I'm Stevie. I moved over with Aileen, who's my wife, and our 2 boys, Robbie and Ali, in July 2023. So we're coming up for 2 years that we are over here.
Yes.
And
Do
we
you feel-
just kind of moved over as a why not give it a go?
Yeah.
And we did.
And like I say, we talk all about your reasons for moving to New Zealand, how you're settling in New Zealand, why you left Scotland in the previous video, and I will link to that in the description below. But what we're here to talk about today is it's a sensitive subject, but it's a subject that needs to be addressed because it happens. I'm going to say
Yeah,
it will happen to all of us, won't it?
absolutely.
And that is the subject of when you lose a family member, when a family member passes away, and you're on the other side of the world. You know, the logistics of that and everything that goes into that. So, first of all, before we start this podcast, I want to say a huge thank you to you for doing this,
No,
Stevie.
not a bother. Yeah, like you said, the chances are it's going to happen to most folk that immigrate at some point.
Yeah, yeah,
It's not a nice thing to think about, but yeah, it's one that you should definitely consider.
yeah, yeah. So let's go into your story. What happened? It was your dad, wasn't it?
It was my dad. So I would probably phone my dad twice a week driving to work. Just, you know, how are you? What's happening? And nothing exciting, just been at the pub, went out for tea, did this, was at the bowling club. And then he bought himself a new car that he did on whatever day it was and drove it home from the garage. And the next day took not well and went to the doctors, and I think they kind of, I don't want to say fobbed them off because that's not fair. But it was like, oh, it's probably a virus. Nothing to worry about. Just lots of rest, lots of paracetamol, lots of water, you'll be fine. And it never really got any better. I probably didn't know at the time that he was speaking to the hospital. Like his partner had kind of put her foot down a little bit and had managed to, say like this is clearly not just the virus. Things aren't right. And they were speaking to the hospital and he was getting brain scans and all this kind of stuff. And we were going to Topo one weekend when Aileen's mum was here. And I knew he wasn't too well, but it was maybe, I don't know, 3 o'clock in the afternoon here, maybe a bit earlier, but it was late at night, early in the morning in Scotland. And I got this text and it was super abrupt, like either got a brain tumor or I've had a stroke. And like, buff, and I was like, oh, bloody hell, right, okay. Didn't bother phoning back and just kind of sat on it for, a couple of days and then spoke to my dad's partner and she kind of filled me in. And yeah, that was it. They saw something on an MRI scan and they couldn't really see what it was. So they want to do a biopsy. And the thing that triggered it for me kind of finding out that he wasn't well was he'd be on the phone and it'd be like, oh, did you watch the football at the weekend? Oh, aye, what a result for United, aye. Blah, 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 blah. And then we'd talk about something else. And then he'd ask the same question again, like seconds later. And I was like, you've just asked me that. Like, I think you need to go see a doctor. And like Lynn was obviously in the background. And that's when she kind of said, oh, look, yeah, we are speaking to folk and, things are maybe not quite as great. And I kind of said then, look, I don't think I need to come back right now. There's not much I could do. Well, it wouldn't be much use. I was like, but if that changes for any reason, or if you want me to come back, like just say and we'll book a flight. Don't worry about it. And my dad's always, he's of that, or he was of that generation. He said, no, it'll be all fine, don't worry, blah, blah, blah. And then I was on the phone to him one day, and by this point he was kind of really not well. And he just kind of said, oh, I think I'll need somebody to come home at some point. And that was the first time he'd mentioned it. And he didn't say, I want you to come home. He never, wasn't that to the point. But I was like, right, okay. So he just that was a Monday. And I flew back on the Saturday, I think, that weekend, certainly. And that was at the start of November, possibly. And then he died on Christmas Day, which was nice of him.
He died on Christmas. Oh, I'm
6 o'clock on Christmas morning. Yeah. So that was interesting. But that is what it is. You can't choose, I don't think. Or maybe you can.
Did you go back with your family, with your children and
So
Eileen?
not to start with. So my work were great. They were really good. And, I was, for the kind of few weeks before I went back when I knew my dad wasn't particularly well and he was getting tests, I kind of every day I just say to my boss, look, we're not any further forward. I'll probably need to go back at some point. And I was just letting him know every day if we were any further forwards or backwards or wherever we were. And the night, the day that I spoke to my dad on the way to work, I kind of went in and said to him also, like, I'm going to book flights today to go back. And he was, they were totally amazing. Like, don't worry about it. You can work remotely. It's, that's no bother. Fair enough. It'll be a funny time, but we'll figure that out. Your family or excuse me, the most important thing. Do what you have to do. Don't worry about work, which was, magic. Really, a really good thing. So, yeah, I think I went back on. I think the middle of November. I think I went back, and just on my own. And then maybe a month later, Aileen and the boys came over. So it was Aileen's 40th on the 18th of December. And I think she came over at in the mid-December, maybe. And then we came back here at the start of January. But yeah, so I was over on my own to start with. And that was the hardest bit, I think.
Being there on your own.
Being on my own, like just being away from normality, maybe, and only seeing, because it's the longest I've been away from Alien and the boys forever, really. So it sounds great, you get a couple of weeks holiday, long lies and stuff, but the reality of it is very, very different, and it isn't easy.
No,
and it's not. But
especially because you're going back under circumstances that aren't happy circumstances. There's
absolutely
not going to be a happy outcome for this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. And I didn't really tell folk that I was going back. Like, I didn't tell friends from Scotland that I was going back because I wasn't going back to socialise or to see folk. I was going back to try and, I'm not a nurse or a doctor. I'm like not medical at all. I can't really look after someone, but try and help as much as I could with my dad.
Yeah.
Not to, and don't like, we managed to do a couple of things. Like we did manage to get away for Aileen's birthday for a night, which was great. And I kind of went to, the town that I'm from is a really small town. So if somebody sees you, everyone knows you're there, so folk did know I was there eventually. And I saw a couple of friends, but not, we didn't have any big nights out or anything, nothing really fun.
No.
That was done, that we didn't. But it was what it was. That's, it wasn't the reason for going back.
So I've got two questions. One, what do you do for a job?
I'm an accountant.
You're an accountant and you work for a firm. You're in Hamilton, aren't you? Not Hamilton.
No, Tauranga.
Tauranga, yeah. And you work for a firm in Tauranga. And well, that's great that they were understanding, because that's a long time to be off work, isn't it?
It was so long. So I was probably out of the office for 12 weeks.
Yeah, that's
start to finish, like a long time. And I was working in inverted commas, like I would manage to do some work, but it would be UK time, not New Zealand time. So, and my boss was well aware of that. I used all my sick leave. I think I'm overdrawn on my sick leave, so to speak. And I used some holidays, but nowhere near the amount of days that I wasn't there. And the amount of work that I didn't make up the difference. And I didn't lose a penny. I was paid full whack, which was like, you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to think, all right, man, we've got to pay rent next week.
Yeah.
And these bills are coming out. If you're getting paid, it's fine. It was no problem. And the thing, we wouldn't have been stuck, but it was one less thing not to have to worry about.
Yeah, and it's a huge thing, isn't it?
And it's a huge thing, yeah. Because unfortunately, it's one of the most important things is that you get paid every week or fortnight over here.
Yeah, that's right.
So, so that was really, and I kind of, when I did go back into the office, I made sure that my boss and then his boss has got like a bottle or something just to kind of say thanks.
Yeah.
Just I felt like it was the right thing to do.
Yes, absolutely. And Aileen's job and the kids at school, how did you juggle that going back to the UK?
So, Aileen, Robbie missed a week of school So Aileen came back a week before the term finished. The school were totally fine. Like
Yeah.
they were obviously understanding, yeah, it's no bother. And Aileen's work were pretty good. She had to take some unpaid leave. She's a nurse. She can't work remotely. Nursing doesn't let you do that, I'm afraid.
Mm,
But her work, oh, like they were really good as well. Like, but their hands were more tied than my works were. So Aileen like kind of used a lot of holidays and a lot of sick leave, and had to take some unpaid leave. But
mm.
again, it was, it was fine. We managed. That we did.
Do you know what? I think the hardest thing, or one of the hardest things, is Stevie, when it comes to family over sit back home, back from where you're from, getting ill. For me, this wasn't a problem because my dad died and I went to the funeral. But with Brian, it was that same thing of, that they're ill and sick, but you don't know when to time it. Because
Yeah,
Brian's mum was like, no, don't come. I'm going to get better. And, it's like you say, you've got to keep things going here. You've got a
yeah,
mortgage to pay. You've got kids at school or whatever.
yeah,
And it's knowing like, when do you go? And, it's
yeah. I mean, there's
awful.
no. I don't think that there's not a right answer. You
No.
do you do what you feel is right, and then that's the right answer. And folk will have opinions. Maybe folk from the UK might tell you that you should be coming home sooner. That may or may not have happened. To
Yeah.
me, I was already speaking to my dad about when I should or shouldn't, you know. Um, but yeah, you'll know, and like say that whatever you do is the right thing to do,
Yeah.
And if folk tell you otherwise, they're wrong
Yeah.
because it's an impossible situation that you can't win in, unfortunately.
And of course, you've got, like you say, talking about that, because again, it happens to all families. You've got people like the family that you left behind there. Like, say, you've got two brothers or sisters, and you've got your brothers and sisters over there, and they're doing the bulk of the work in their eyes. It's like,
Yeah,
why aren't you
absolutely.
here? I'm worrying about mum, or I'm worrying about dad. It's me that's doing all the hospital runs. It's me that's finding enough going to the doctors. And you're just over in New Zealand living the best life. And why aren't you here? And it's just, it is such a reality, isn't it?
Yeah, massively. I think the
Yeah.
thing that maybe made it slightly trickier, trickier is not the right word. So I'm an only child. So I
Right.
was my dad's only next of kin.
Okay.
My mum passed away 2014, so it was my dad's partner who was doing running them to the hospital,
Yeah.
looking at, they were together for a long time, but they didn't live together. They weren't married. They had very, very separate lives, although they were very much a couple and they were very much in love. So when I've said to Lynn numerous times that I'm so grateful that she was there and that she did all the things that she did because it meant that I didn't have to go back as soon.
Mm.
And my dad wasn't relying on friends to do stuff or, you know, there was no, it was just easy. It wasn't easy for Lynn, but, it was just that was what, it's what you do when your partner
Yeah.
gets ill. You do these things. It's,
Yeah.
you don't do it because for gratitude, you don't do it for any other reason than it's what you do,
Mm.
you know? And but yeah, so I'm super, super grateful that they were a couple and that she was there. And it saved me again, that's not it's finding the
No,
right
I
thing to
know.
say.
Yeah, I know,
It didn't
darling. I
save me
know.
going back, but it meant I
Yeah.
didn't have to go back
Yeah.
as soon.
Yeah.
And I think I probably went back at about the right time. By
Yeah.
the time I got back, my dad was very, very ill. And I think 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks after I got back, he was kind of told, like, yeah, there's nothing, chemo
Mm.
won't do anything, can't get radiotherapy. And I think even by that point, I don't know if he had the capacity to understand what was going on.
Mm.
Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. So he had like a really aggressive type of blood cancer that was just in his brain. And if you met him, it was like he had dementia. That's what his symptoms were like, and that's how it was possibly missed again, in inverted commas, because he didn't have any symptoms of a brain tumor, never had sore heads, because it was confined to his brain. All the blood work that he had done didn't show any cancer markers. So it wasn't until they actually did an MRI and then did a biopsy, they were like, yeah, this is what it is. And unfortunately, you're toast.
Oh,
That was a quote. That was my
right.
dad's words, not mine, so I can say it.
Did he have your sense of humour?
I think mine's is better.
Is
But
it?
he was all right. He was an interesting character. We
Oh,
didn't have the closest relationship. I think we said the last time we spoke, which made it quite easy for us to move here. From my point of view, Aileen and her mum and her family are probably way closer than I was with my dad. So it was much more of a harder decision for Aileen to make to come here, leaving her family, than it was maybe for me, which is possibly a bit unfair. Of course you still miss them, but yeah, Aileen was
yeah.
much closer with her
Is a
family.
is a are Alien's family still back in Scotland?
Yep, yeah. So her mum, uh, her mum moved around the corner from where we bought a house to be kind of near us, and then we moved over here. But she's still got two brothers that our mum's in the middle of both of them. One lives down in Edinburgh, and one lives in North Berwick. So Ian's mum's kind of right in the middle,
Yeah.
and
It's
she's
always
been over twice, and she's coming over again in June.
Oh,
I
that's
think.
good.
Yeah, so she
That's
comes over
good.
all the time, which is great.
I don't know if you can answer this because it's Aileen's question, but did you find that when you went back to the UK and your dad had died, did you find it, or did Aileen find it harder to then think, oh God, because all of a sudden when someone dies, especially your parents, everything becomes really super heightened and precious, doesn't it? And you just think, is this the
Yeah,
last time I'm going to see you? And did she
I
push
don't
it?
know. No, well, if she was, she'd never said to me that she was.
Right.
And our mum's whatever age she is, and she's relatively fit and healthy for a grandma. You
Yeah.
know, she's probably got high blood pressure and a few other wee things, but nothing out of the ordinary, nothing that you would worry about. So there's no reason for Aileen to worry any more than normal about her mum.
Mm.
Because you don't know what's happening tonight. You might get hit by a bus tomorrow. You know, and my dad did ask the doctor when, excuse me, he was told what he had, and he's like, "Oh, what did I do?" And the doctor was like, "Nothing. It's bad luck, pure bad luck. It's not like, you've smoked 40 fags a day for 40 years and you've got lung cancer and you think, well, the odds were never in your favor. It was just one of those things, you know, and that is what it is. And you can't, if you lived your life worrying about stuff like that all the time, you would never leave your house.
Mm.
So, but yeah, I would say that Aileen, since we've come back here, has probably felt more settled here than she did previously.
Right.
I think being back in the UK, even with it being over Christmas and things like that, made her realize that she's really not missing much. We're not missing all these massive life events of folk. People in the UK are doing exactly what we're doing, just at the other side of the world. They're just living their life.
Mm.
So I think Aileen certainly feels less homesick than she did before we went back and came back over here.
Oh, that's good.
Which is
That's
yeah,
good.
I mean, I felt set, I felt really settled since we kind of came over. Really, Aileen probably not as much,
Mm.
but I'd say now she feels much more settled. Like, we're thinking seriously now about buying a house over here.
Mm.
Whereas had you asked us before Christmas, Aileen probably would have said, "Oh no," because we probably won't be here long enough to warrant it. Whereas now it's like, well, it is only a flight away. It's a long flight, but yeah, so that's where we are at the moment,
Do
which
you
is
think
quite
that's,
exciting.
yeah, very exciting. That you'll be a proper Kiwi then.
Oh, Maybe.
If you work really hard.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think it's because Aileen went home or went back to Scotland? I've got to stop saying that, home. And went back to Scotland and realised that, because you spent quite a while there, that realised, like you say, actually, this is exactly the same as it was when we left. And we left because...
absolutely.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like you're not like, I mean, like for the town where I'm from, so I'm from a town called Carnoustie, kind of just up the coast from Edinburgh a little bit. It's the same folk drinking the same pub, stand at the same spot at the bar. You know, it's a really wee place, you know, and it's lovely. It was a great place to grow up. Where Aileen's from, you know, she's from a big city, so it's very, very different. But, you know, folk get into the same habits, I think, of doing the same thing, you know. But yeah, it's not that we don't miss it. Of course we miss it, and we miss the people, and, you know, you miss friends and things like that. But yeah, it's starting to feel a bit more like home over here now, I think.
That's good.
Which is quite cool.
That's good. Sorry if you can hear slamming in the background. My daughter's slamming all the doors. It's a windy day here, and so did you ever have any conversations with, I think I'm guessing the answer to this, but did you have any conversations with your dad before you left for New Zealand? Or I mean, Aileen's mum sounds as if you wouldn't, you know, she's fit and well, but were there any conversations that you had, like, look, if anything happens, you know, if you fall ill or if you're, worst comes to worst, you need me to come home, then I will. Did you have those conversations beforehand, or is that something that you just...
No, we didn't. And yeah, I mean, hindsight's a wonderful thing. We probably should have, and it's probably a conversation that Aileen and I should have with her mum and her brothers, you know, because you know, she's got a bigger family than I had. But no, we didn't. And yeah, we weren't that type of family. Even when I was younger, we never sat down and spoke about anything particularly meaningful, you know, which, you know, it's a different era, a different generation, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think the outcome of it would have been the same. I think I probably would have went home or back to Scotland at the same time. You know, while I was speaking to my dad, he was able to say that, nah, you don't need to come back yet. And Lynn, his partner, was also, you know, she was really great and said, I'm managing just now, but if I feel like I'm not, I'll let you know. And I was like, yeah, that's I was like, just do, like, don't worry,
Yeah.
don't try and second guess it. If you feel like I need to come back for anything, just say, and we'll book a flight. And it, you know, it is what it is. Which was and that was, yeah, like that was really good of Lynn to be that honest with me.
Do you know, Stevie, we were the same in our family. You know, when my mum died, I was totally unprepared for it. And it was just, it made me more aware, but still, I don't know. I would like to think that I would be one of these parents that would be like, sit my kids down and say, right, okay, you know, when I die or when your dad dies, this is what we want. If we go together, this is what we want. And I know people who do that. You know, you talk to people and they're, oh yeah, we've got all our afterlife plan and it's all planned out. And you think, like, for the sake of a really horrible conversation or an awkward conversation, it would make it so much easier, wouldn't it? You know,
yeah, absolutely. And I don't think it needs to be an awkward conversation. Like,
oh,
it's one of those things that, you know, it's like, what's the thing? Like, the only two certain things are in life are death and taxes.
yeah,
Like, it's going to happen. Nobody lives forever.
no,
You know, you hope that you live till you're in your 90s or whatever it is, and you're fit and healthy, and you die in your sleep. Unfortunately, that's not the case for the vast majority of people. You know, and certainly my dad, the only thing that he had written down, two things he wanted done: the way he wanted to be cremated, and he wanted his ashes to go where my mum's ashes were. Didn't have anything else. Like, no funeral plans, didn't say if he wanted it to be like in a church or whatever. So that was kind of all left to me to do, and that was fine. That was, you know, it was easy enough to plan a funeral. You just got to do it. But yeah, so that's the only thing that he had written down. Other than that, there wasn't a great deal to go on. No, there wasn't. But yeah, it's certainly a thing that you should definitely think about trying to do it. Let's say it's not going to be a fun conversation to have, but it doesn't have to be all doom and gloom. Like, just if these things happen, this is what I want you to do.
Yeah.
If you've got it, if people know, then people can do what you want, I suppose.
It's funny because my mum's dad was from Scotland. He's Glaswegian, and she's got she had exactly the same outlook. And I think it's probably a Scottish thing, because when I hear you talk and you say things like that, like on her will, on the front of her will, it wrote, "Only open this when I kick the bucket." And it's like that was her sense of humor. And when I talk to you, I can feel that Scottish,
Yeah, there was things that you don't, things you don't realize that you maybe are or aren't allowed to do. So when it became clear that my dad was going to pass away, I knew his will was with a lawyer. Not that my dad was well off enough to have his own lawyer, but he was a fireman for 30 years. And as part of the fire brigades union, they must have recommended that all their wills and affairs were looked after by this lawyer in Glasgow. So one of the things that I did when I went back was get his partner added to his power of attorney so that she could speak to doctors. Because when I first went back, sorry, I'm kind of jumping about a little bit.
No.
When I obviously I just booked a ticket there. And when we first went back, I kind of thought, maybe only be there for 2 or 3 weeks. Get the lie of the land. We'll come back and then we'll go back to Scotland when we really have to. So one of the first things I did was like kind of speak to Lynn and say, look, I think it's worth you getting put onto my dad's power of attorney so that you can speak to doctors. Because at the moment, I have absolutely no issue with you speaking to doctors and getting told test results. But legally, you probably shouldn't, because you're not married. Like legally, you are just 2 separate people. So we got that done, which was, it was fine. It was dead easy to do, no bother at all. And then after it maybe turned out that, well, maybe I'll be here a little bit longer. I won't be coming back to New Zealand straight away. I went to the lawyer to ask if I could see his will. And I was like, not for any sinister reason, but just so that we can have an idea of what we're going to have to do.
Yeah.
Because it's like, my gut was like, his will not have changed from when he wrote it. I'll be the beneficiary, I'll be the executor. But if I'm not, it would have been handy to know. So there's even things like that. Now, I was the beneficiary and I was the executor, which meant that only me could legally close bank accounts and electricity accounts and all this, deal with all these things. But it could have been myself and Lynn. And if we'd known that earlier, we maybe could have had a bit of a plan put in place. So it's things like that. You think, let folk know what's in your will, or have a copy of your will in your house so that people can see it. Because I wasn't allowed to see his will because it was still his will.
Right.
So I asked the lawyer, and they were like, the person that I spoke to was going to let me see it. And then somebody else kind of came down the stairs and was like, I'm really sorry, you're not allowed to see it because he's not dead. And I was like, I know, but it's just so I can see what it says and if there's anything in it that we need to be aware of. And he was like, no, as long as he's alive, it is his will. Only after he dies can the executor, whoever that may be, see it.
Right.
So they couldn't even confirm then if it would be me that would have to deal with stuff. And it's like little things like that, rightly or wrongly, we started doing stuff anyway because we knew it wasn't going to have changed. But maybe it had, so little things like that, I think, maybe keep a copy of your will in your house.
Mm.
and let folk know where it is so they can have a look at it and so that they'll know who has the obligation of sorting out your affairs,
Yeah.
you know. But like I say, like, I mean, my dad was never going to have changed his because he, 6 months ago, he was fit and healthy. He had no reason to do it, you know.
How old was he, Stevie?
72. He was 72 on the
Oh.
25th of November.
Oh.
So 72 in a month on the button that he was. Not old.
No,
Not
no,
old.
not old. Same age as my mum, actually. My mum was 72
Yeah.
and it's not old.
Yeah.
It's this is and again, I feel uncomfortable talking about this because I'm always scared that I'm going to upset someone by saying the wrong thing, but I'm just going to say it. The thing when you are like living on the other side of the world and someone gets ill, like I say, it's that timing, which even saying that sounds so mercenary, doesn't it? It's like, well, how long
Mm.
have you got? Shall I book the flight now?
Yeah.
Because if you had gone over and your job hadn't been so understanding, and you weren't in the position to be able to stay there for what you stayed there for almost 2 months, over 6 weeks you stayed there?
But
Almost
12
two.
weeks.
Oh, 12 weeks.
Yeah, about that, yeah.
Wow. You think it's this horrible guilt thing of like, well, when do I like imagine if you'd have gone over there and someone had said, well, your dad's probably gonna be alive till March. Then you have that
Yeah, yeah.
thing of thinking, well, what do I do? Do
Yeah,
I
exactly.
stay?
Yep.
But I don't know if you agree with me here, Stevie, and I'm talking from personal experience with both my parents, is you have to remember what your parent was like in real life, like what they would say
Yeah,
to you,
exactly.
you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
And
I
it
totally
sounds
agree. I
like,
mean, there's
yeah,
nothing me being there any earlier, or even if my dad could have got treatment, would I be in any use
no,
being there? Probably not.
no.
Like, because I wasn't going to be, he was of that age. I wasn't going to be a shoulder to cry on for him. He would never have been like that to maybe on his own, possibly, but never in front of anyone else,
Mm.
So it's like, and I would have just probably got in the way. So yeah, it's like I said earlier, there's the thing that you choose to do is the right thing to do.
Mm.
That it is. But it's difficult. It's never an easy decision to make. Well, no, maybe that's wrong. I think when the time comes, it's an easy decision to make.
Mm.
You'll go with your gut and your gut will be right.
Yeah.
And you won't second guess yourself. Like at no point when I was there, even on my own, before even the boys came over, was I like, oh, should I be here? Is this a waste of time? Because at that point, it was quite useful me being there. Like because unfortunately, my dad's partner's dad wasn't very well either.
Oh.
Like I think he's much better now, but at the time he was very ill and yeah, like seriously ill. I think at one point they were waiting on a phone call to kind of say, oh, he's he's passed away as well. Touch like thankfully he didn't and he's much better. But yeah, it's it's not it's not an easy situation to be in, but it's easy to make the right decision, I think.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to comment on this if you don't want to, but what would you say
No, no.
about, because this is the other, talking to other people like people who have come over to New Zealand or anywhere in the world really, they say that when they like go back, and luckily this didn't happen to me with my dad because I wasn't that involved in the family beforehand,
Mm.
but they say when you go back, as well as dealing with the death or the illness, the serious illness of your family that's ill, you then have to deal with the guilt of, like we said earlier, like you're not doing enough. Why are you never here? Oh, it's just some of the
Yeah.
things that people say are so cutting and cruel. Like it's because of you moving away broke their heart, and that's why they're ill. Like that's why they died, and that's why
Yeah.
they.
Now there was
Oh,
never any of that, like thankfully. There were a couple of comments here and there from people that were wrong. Um, I won't go into that because I don't want to waste my breath on it. But generally, yeah. So unfortunately, the family that I'm closest to were my mum's side of the family,
Right.
who I still speak to. Like I spoke to my uncle Alistair this morning.
Mm.
Like I phone him, once a week. He's just become a granddad for the first time, so he's super excited. And, whereas my dad's sister and that, I hadn't spoken to at all since before we left.
Right.
And I probably won't speak to again. I would very much doubt,
Mm.
and that is what it is. That's, but yeah, thankfully there was none of that sort of chat about, no trying to make me feel guilty for coming over. Again, privately, though, maybe those conversations were had, but
We don't.
never towards us. And they're like,
Yeah.
that's hearsay. If they're
Yeah.
had and I don't know about it, then fine. I don't care.
Mm.
And as well, with Aileen's mum has never once said. Well, she says that she misses us, of course she does, but she's never once said that I wish you hadn't gone or I wish you were closer, or which is really good. Even if she might think it, she's never said that to us.
That's
Which is
true
nice.
love, that, isn't it? It really is.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
true love for a daughter and a
Because I
family.
think as well, when you do move away, you are being selfish.
Mm.
Like
You
you're doing
are.
it for you. You're not doing it for anybody else. And you know that you're upsetting folk. Maybe not, making them angry that you're doing it, but making them like actually upset. Like, oh, you can't just pop round for a cup of tea, or I can't just, you know, see you whenever I want. But you still move because you think it's the right thing to do.
Mm.
And like I say, it is the right thing to do.
It is. It is, absolutely.
Yeah.
And before we leave this subject, I think it's important just to reiterate what we just said earlier is when you have got, because there's a lot of noise and people's opinions and, some more than others in different families. But when you have all that, especially when you come back and you're stepping back into an old life that you left behind and all you're thinking is, oh God, just let me just get back to New Zealand, please. Let me just get back to my life that I've just spent the last how many years building. But I think it's super important to remember your relationship with your mum and dad. That was it. That's all
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
matters,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
matter what they say, it doesn't. That's their
yeah,
them and their problems. This what your mum and dad
yeah.
would have said.
I mean, I was ready to come home, New Zealand home, a month before my dad died.
Mm.
Like I was saying, Aileen, like, don't bother coming over because I want to come back. But that would have been running away from what was going on. In all honesty, and I think I knew that I couldn't. But I was like, I'm definitely ready to be going home and to getting into normality. I think, we flew home 2 days after his funeral.
Right.
Like we had to have a conversation with Lynn, so my dad's partner, and his sister. So thankfully, I don't know if thankfully is the right word, but the funeral director that we used was a friend from school. Before, like when it was kind of imminent that he was dying, I kind of spoke to him and said, look, what's the wait at the crematorium like at the moment? Because if it's a month, I can't wait a month to have a funeral and then come home. Like my work have been super understanding, but I think even if I was my boss, I'd be like, well, that's taking the mick a little bit now. So we had to have a conversation about the possibility of having a funeral, quote unquote, but him not being cremated then.
Right.
And then potentially, and that's what I said to my mate, I was like, don't tell me when it's going to happen because I don't want I at this point I was being super selfish, and I was like, if I can't be there, nobody can be there. And I was like, that might really, really piss some people off. And I did have conversations with my auntie and Lynn, my dad's partner, and surprisingly, I thought they would both be a bit negative towards it and be like, "Oh no, you can't do that." They were both okay with that. You know, we're going to have we're going to have a funeral. You're just not going to have the cremation at that point. But thankfully, we didn't have to wait. Like the queue at the crematorium was like a week. It was fine.
Right.
So we didn't, but that was like a conversation that was probably one of the toughest conversations we had to have, was that kind of discussion.
Yeah.
You know, because my dad didn't have a funeral plan. We didn't know what he wanted.
Mm.
So, but yeah, well, like, so let's say, thankfully, we dodged that bullet and we managed to have a proper funeral when
Yeah.
he was there and everyone else was there, which was nice. It was nice. Like it was, I don't think I mean, I don't want this to almost turn into a bit of a therapy session. I don't think it really feels real. Amy and I were talking this morning that he's dead, because we've just come back to normal life. You know, and I think it would have been made 10 times worse had we not been able to have a proper funeral. Because that is kind of, you know, having a funeral is the end of it and it's what you do to move on. And I think having a funeral, you need a coffin and you need to be able to see it to either go into the ground or whatever happens at a crematorium type of thing. So I think had we not been able to have a funeral, it would have been a much, yeah, it would have been a much more difficult feeling, I think, at the moment. But we managed to have one, which was good, I suppose. Made it easier to close the chapter,
Yeah.
so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah, two things there I just want to mention, because the same thing. My dad died. I booked the flight to go back to the UK. I booked a three week return flight. I thought, or no, actually, I booked a month. I think, I don't know, 4 weeks. And I spoke to my my dad's cousin, and she said he won't be cremated for 6 weeks or 5 weeks.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to change your flight. And I said, well, I can't. I didn't get any insurance. I've booked it. And so she did the same. She went to the crematorium and said, look, you know, he's got his family coming from New Zealand. Can you bring it forward? And they did. But something,
Yeah.
you don't even think about that. It's not something
Things
that
like that,
would
yeah.
no. I didn't know there was a
it would
wait.
not have popped into my head.
No,
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, you would never consider it
no. You
until
wouldn't.
you have to consider it, and you think, all right, hang on a minute. Yeah, there's going to have to be some real decisions made here that, yeah, might really upset some folk.
Yeah. You have to be a real grown up, don't you, when your parents die? It's a
Aye, it's shite.
shitter. It is shite. It really is. 'Cause it's like, where's my mum and dad to sort this out? That's what they normally
exactly.
do, you know?
Yeah, and it's. I'm going to sound like a spoiled little brat here. It's great that it's only me, because there's no to and froing about what to do with stuff.
Yeah.
There's no conversations to be had with what's going to be done with my mum and dad's house, with all the stuff that was in the house, with anything. What I say goes, and that's it. Which makes it very, very easy. But at the same time, it then means that it's me that's got to do it all. And if I'm being honest, it's not that hard. Like, I did think that doing it all from over here, when lawyers and estate agents and all these things are open at the other side of the clock, would be a real pain in the arse. And it's not. It's fine. You just email and they email back you and you wake up to an email. Like it's dead easy.
Okay.
Or in my experience, certainly, it's been very easy.
Yeah. By the way,
It has.
you don't sound like a spoiled brat. You just sound like a grown up Stevie.
Nah, stuff that.
Yeah.
40 in a month, so it's proper old.
We don't want to be grown up.
Oh, telling me.
Oh, it's such it. Do you know, it's a conversation. I love this conversation because It's nothing like I've ever talked about before, ever in my life. Because
Yeah,
you just don't, it's going to come, but you don't know what it entails. I think that's the hard bit. And
that's it. You always make excuses not to have these conversations.
you do,
Like I can guarantee that Aileen's probably not had conversations with her mum, despite having just gone through this,
Yeah.
with what her mum would want to happen, or with what her mum would want her to do. Because I mean, Aileen would jump on a flight straight away. And there's absolutely no doubts about it. And even if Grandma said, "Oh, you don't have to worry about doing that," Aileen would still do it. You know, so maybe the conversation doesn't need to be had. But you know, yeah, it's a funny one.
I think like you said earlier, it doesn't have to be awkward. To me, I don't know. I'm the same as you. We weren't brought up as kids. We didn't have these big in-depth conversations.
No, we definitely didn't.
No. And so when it just feels wrong to go to your parents and say, right, okay, can we just talk about, your afterlife plan, or what do you,
Yeah.
no, I couldn't do
Like
it.
even as an adult. So when my mum died, my mum and dad hid so much from me. And I was an adult. I mean, I was a young adult. I was only 28 or something. Is that a young adult? I don't know.
Yeah, young adult.
Relatively young,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And I think we went up to visit one weekend. And Aileen was like, "Oh, I think you better phone your boss to say that you won't be in on Monday." And I was like, "Oh, how come?" And he was like, "I think you better phone your boss to say you won't be in on Monday." And I was like, "Ah, nah, really?" And yeah, like she was right. Within a couple of days, my mum had passed away. And I had no idea that my mum was that. I mean, I knew she was ill,
Yeah.
and I knew she was palliative, but I didn't know she was that ill, you know? So even then, my mum and dad, we didn't have that type of conversation, you know,
And she would
which is
have
something that
wanted
I
to.
want to make sure that we try and speak to our boys about stuff like that a bit more. You know, like Robbie wanted to go to my dad's funeral. And we were like, absolutely, of course you can. And then because Robbie wanted to go, so Robbie is 8, Ali's 4, Ali wanted to go. I was like, oh, 4-year-old at a funeral, is that a good idea? Of course it is. Like, what's he going to do? I mean, he did say in the limo thing on the way up, he's like, can I sit on Grandad's coffin? I'm like, well, probably not.
Yeah.
You know,
Even though
but it'll
Grandad
get
would
a
have
laugh.
probably liked that. Yeah.
Aye, it'll get a laugh, but yeah, probably not the thing to do, you know. But you know, and I'm sure that split opinion as well when they were there. But they asked if they could go, and I was like, yeah, of course you can go. Like,
Yeah.
why shouldn't you? You these things happen. Like people die. You know, and we speak about my mum. Robbie's aware that he never met his granny. We speak about her. He knows who she is. You know, we don't go into details about how ill she was or what illness she had. That's not important. But he's got a decent grasp of mortality, I think, for an 8-year-old. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know, but it's the way that we are, and I think I'd rather we spoke to him about things like that from now than we didn't.
Yeah.
Because I'd rather, because looking back, I wish my mum and dad had,
Yeah.
even
Yeah, me
even
too.
when they were ill, and even as an adult, I wish we'd spoken about it more.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's maybe just learning from our mistakes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Not that my mum and dad were wrong, like they just chose to do it differently than I would.
Yeah.
Again, there's no right or wrong. What you do is right. And when I'm doing it differently, I think.
And I always think they did what they thought was best, and
Exactly.
that's it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And
Definitely.
and again, just thinking about Robbie in the coffin and in the car. This is the thing that I just. And we're diverting. I know we are, because we're supposed to be talking about how to deal with death when you were living in New Zealand. But this is just between me and you, two people who have just lost their parents at the same time. I just think, again, knowing my mum and knowing my dad, and I know for a fact let's talk about my mum, because I know what she would have wanted. She would have had the music full up blast. She would have had everyone getting drunk. She'd have had this, she'd have had, oh, she was so staunch, my mum. She was so
Yeah.
not like oh, everyone cry. She would have gone mad
Yeah.
if she'd known that.
Yeah.
It would have done her head in. But for some reason, and I'm talking personally here, I'm not judging people, I'm talking about myself. When people pass, you don't honor that. I don't know. You don't be like, oh, sod it, everyone. Like, just do what you want and do what my mum would
Yeah.
have wanted. You feel this sense of like obliging, of like doing what you should. Like someone said to me at my mum's funeral, I won't say who it was, but someone said to me, you're doing this all wrong. This is all wrong what you've done. And I thought afterwards, and at the time I was like, oh, really? Oh, I'm sorry I didn't. No, do you know what? I did what my mum would have wanted. But even, and that's what I'm trying to get back to, is you've got to cut out the noise from around the outside, especially
Yeah.
when you're coming from the other side of the world, because you're putting yourself into someone else's life. This is not your normal life anymore.
Exactly.
And having that added extra, yeah, Stevie, from other people, you have got to just stay really strong and think, no, this is what they would have wanted. This is who I'm going to be true to their wishes,
Yeah. I mean, I think so. At my dad's funeral, so like I say, my dad had no funeral plans. He wasn't religious, so he wasn't going to be in a church. So we did it in the crematorium, and I know the guy that married Alien and I relatively well. So I was like, he's great. Tim starts talking, everyone looks at him. He's the person to do weddings and funerals because he's class. So I asked him to do it. And it was a humanist service. So the way Tim works it is that you kind of write your own service. He was like, go and get 4 or 5 people to write a little story about your dad.
Mm.
And if they want to stand up and read it out, they can read it out. If not, I'll do it. And he's like, you do the same. And so we were in Tim's house having a brew, kind of discussing stuff. And I was like, my dad and I didn't have like the perfect relationship. There was definitely two sides to it, 2 chapters to it. There was from when I was born to when my mum died, and from when my mum died to now, and it got much harder. I was like, you think I could say that? He's like, yeah, absolutely. And I know, no, I didn't badmouth my dad at all. I simply said that it wasn't the perfect relationship. I loved him dearly. I was super proud of him, but it wasn't perfect. After my dad's, so at the wake, I don't know if you have a wake in England, when everyone goes back for a
Yes,
pint
yeah,
and a cup of tea.
yeah, definitely, yeah, yeah.
So someone that I had no idea who they were came up to me and said, I think that was great what you said. I mean, I didn't say it, I wrote it down. And rightly so. Like, you didn't badmouth them.
Yeah.
You acknowledged that it wasn't easy. But I know that other folk have taken a massive grievance against that. That they have. So I think I would say, again, do what's right for you.
Yeah.
Because I'm quite miserable when it comes down to it. Like, I don't believe that my dad knew what was getting said at his funeral because he wasn't there. There was a body there, but I don't believe that he knew, which makes it maybe a bit easier to get on with things.
Yeah.
And if other folk have different beliefs, that's totally cool. I would never tell somebody that they're wrong, but that's my belief.
Mm.
So I don't think I upset him by saying what I said. And maybe other folk have a slightly different opinion and maybe think that I would have upset him. It's like, well, you can't have it all. You can't win.
No, you can't.
So again, whatever you choose to do is the right thing to do.
Yeah, I love that. And I just want to touch on, before we go, I just want to touch on what you said earlier. You said about you'd come back to New Zealand, and it almost feels like it wasn't real. Like, like they're still alive. And I can totally relate to that.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that just talk about that for a minute, because that is something that you've got to be also aware of when you come back to your own country, come back to New Zealand. I think, is it because we don't see them every day? We're not.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even when my mum died, like 11 years ago, when we went to my dad's house, you'd still go in expecting her to see her.
Mm.
And you'd have to go, oh, right, wait a minute, no, of course. Like, you know, not that you forget. I don't know. Yeah, it's weird, but yeah, certainly I think being over here, if I'm being brutally honest, I've probably not really dealt with it at all yet. I have spoken to someone about it and about what's happened and things, and I should maybe check in with them again.
Mm.
But yeah, because you just get back into life because you're so far away. It's it's easy to do that. You're not in the same town. You're not going past the house every day. You're not seeing his friends every day and things like that, you know. But yeah, it's definitely something that I would, yeah, when the time does come for for this to happen, like hopefully, you know, it doesn't for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, be aware that it kind of feels like, a, yeah, like a bit of a dream, like almost like did it really happen?
Mm.
Definitely did. But I think, yeah, because you're not there, it's much easier to put it to the back of your mind,
Mm.
which is probably not the best thing to do. And
No,
it's not.
no.
But
And I
we'll get
don't,
there.
yeah, exactly. And I don't know what the best, you just do what the best you can, don't you? I don't
Yeah,
know what
absolutely.
because people say, oh, keep talking about it and, keep it. And then other people, oh, I don't know. I don't know. It's a very, very, very personal thing, but I can
Yeah, of
really,
course it is.
really relate
Yeah,
to you when you say that because it's just yeah, it's such a shock. And then you think,
yeah,
oh, did that really happen? Did I really go back to the UK and do all that? Like, I bet
yeah,
you're the same as me. You look at pictures and you're like, oh my God, when did I go back? Oh God, no, that was my dad's funeral. I don't know.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
just like, oh, it's
That's
tough.
funny.
It is.
Yeah,
It's
no,
really
it really
tough.
is.
Yeah. And like I say, I really, really appreciate you talking about this. From a
No
selfish
problems.
point of view, it's been great talking
Absolutely.
to you about it. Thank you. I
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
like
No,
I've had
no, no
a
worries, stop.
yeah, I feel like I've had a therapy session. And because again, this thing needs to be talked about. We need to
Yeah, it definitely
discuss
does.
it. It's
Yeah.
not something that's not going to happen and it's not something that you can just brush under. But is there anything that I haven't asked you or we haven't talked about that you think, oh, I really think people should be aware of that, or I wish I'd said that?
No, not yet. I don't think so. I mean, I would say that the friends that we made over here through like you guys, most of our friends over here are probably folk that are part of the Ends of the Head group.
Mm.
We've made a few friends through parents, have all been super supportive, and everyone's asked questions. How you doing? No one's been afraid to ask. That's one thing I always think when things that really annoy me when folk die is when people say I'm sorry to hear or I'm so sorry that you think, why are you sorry? You didn't do anything.
Oh, maybe you said that to me, and I thought, oh God, what else can I say? I never know what to say. So, what do you say then if you don't say I'm sorry?
Shite news about. Just acknowledge it.
All right,
I
I'm
mean,
going to
it's not. I
use
mean, I know
that.
like folk aren't going to like I know folk aren't saying that they are sorry because like I know that, but like when after my mum died, it really started annoying me. I was like, why are you saying sorry?
Yeah,
Find a different thing to say. Like, thanks for acknowledging it, but don't say sorry. You didn't do anything.
it's so
And I
true.
know,
It's so
and I
true.
know they don't mean sorry. It's just, but it's what you say.
Yeah,
But whenever someone that I know like loses a relative or whatever it is, I make sure that I don't start the text message or the conversation with "I'm sorry." It's generally shite news about, you know.
yeah, yeah. You said that to me when I lost my. I remember you messaging me on Slack and you saying that.
Yeah,
And again, this goes back to staying true to who you are, and instead
yeah,
of thinking, oh, do you know what? I even Googled what to say to people when their parents died. I just didn't know what to say, and
yeah,
and that's after my parents had died. So I don't know.
yeah,
So I'm not exactly a
yeah,
good
absolutely.
example, but
And I know that folk, it's like it's just what you say. It's what you say. I'm sorry,
yeah,
you
but
know.
like you say,
But yeah,
it's
you're
not
not
real.
sorry.
No,
You've
you're
not done
not.
anything to apologize for. Like
Yeah.
sorry's not the right word. Shite
It,
is.
yeah. Or oh bloody hell, Stevie, you must be feeling fucking shit. I know.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know, like
That's it.
that.
Just acknowledge it.
Yeah,
Just acknowledge it. You know.
Yeah.
Because I always remember. And this is not about me at all. But I remember years and years ago, somebody that I used to work with, dad died like at the drop of a hat, really unexpectedly, and he was off work dealing with it, and he came back, and we sat in an office with like lots of rows of desks, and he was the first one that you went past. And I wasn't particularly close to him. I knew him. I had a beer with him on a Friday. And the first day he was back at work, I got in the office at 9:05. It was full. And I was like, oh, John, shinies about your dad. Hope you're doing all right. And he's like, you're the first person to say something. Everyone's walked past and nobody's acknowledged that. And I'm like, why? Why are folk afraid to say it? And John was like the life and soul. He was, you weren't going to upset him by acknowledging it, and everyone knew that. And it's like, why are folk afraid to acknowledge things? Like, things happen. You've not caused it, and yeah, maybe somebody would get upset by you acknowledging it. And that's not a bad thing. Like, you've not done something deliberately to upset them. You're just acknowledging that you're thinking about them or acknowledging the situation that they're in. But
I'm going to
anyway.
remember that. No, I'm going to remember it because it's true. And it's about staying true to yourself. Like Brian says, kia u, stay true. And it's true. It's say what you really want to say, rather than what you think you should say, because that's what everyone else says. So yeah, that's good advice, Stevie.
Yeah. No, I think we've covered everything. I don't think there's anything that like I said, I don't know what we were going to speak about. And you asked me to think of 5 questions. I was like, oh, God knows.
Sorry for doing that. I was trying to be grown up and proper. Like I say, it's just discuss it. Just acknowledge that things happen, and yeah. You're going to go through it at some point, unfortunately. And
I mean, you and I aren't anymore. We've done it. Got the T-shirt.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can be an orphan at 40, but
do you know this is a really, really weird thing to say, but I'm going to tell you that I thought it anyway. And I don't know if you, but when my mum died, I was obviously your heart breaks. And then when my dad died, after about a couple of weeks after, I thought, I don't have to go through that ever again. I don't have to worry about my mum and dad dying, because now they're both gone.
It's done.
And I thought, I wonder if I'm weird, and I wonder if anyone else thinks like that.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever said it, but I think I've definitely thought it.
Yeah.
Like, it's done. It's like I say, it's that bit's done, and you move on. Yeah.
Listen, I really, really appreciate you talking to me today. Like I say, I know for a fact people will be listening to this thinking, what a refreshing conversation. And you were the most... Maybe. No, 100%. I know that for sure. And I want to thank you, Stevie, for your openness, your braveness, just your willingness to share that. And for being such a fantastic member of the community over there on Slack Island Z Ahead community. Love having you there. It's thank you from the bottom of my heart.
It's been super. It's been great. It's been really good. Funnily enough, like, it's not been a particularly pleasant conversation or topic, but it's been a nice conversation.
Yeah, I think so. So meet up again in a year?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Hopefully be in a different house.
Oh yeah, you'll have your own house.
Yeah.
Okay, Stevie. Thank you so much, darling.
See you soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast this week. We have loved having you here with us.
If you loved this week's show, please share this with your friends. Send it to anybody you know that wants to think about moving to New Zealand, and get on over here yourself.
And tell them how brilliant it is as well. And also, if you haven't signed up for our free 5-day video guide showing you what life is really like in New Zealand, then go over to the website and sign up. You are missing out. This is brilliant. Go over to www.nzahead.com/free, and we will send you 5 days worth of videos about what life is like in New Zealand. You are going to love it. So one more time, that website that you need to sign up for the free 5-day guide is www.nzahead/free. So we're going to see you next week. Until then, have a great week and we'll speak to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Say bye, girl. Bye.
Bye.